Emma Collins woke up before her alarm, staring at the gray ceiling of her small apartment as rain pressed softly against the window. And in that quiet moment, a heavy thought settled in her chest. The kind she had been avoiding for years, the thought that her life was not broken, but paused. Like a book left open on the same page for too long, and she wondered how she had arrived here at 32, living alone outside Portland. Working at a library where days passed gently but without surprise, smiling politely at familiar faces, while feeling unseen inside because once she had dreamed loudly, once she had loved deeply, and when that love ended, not with anger but with silence, something inside her learned to stay still, to choose comfort over risk, safety over desire, and routine over hope. And so her life became careful, quiet, and predictable until this morning, when, as she dressed for work and poured coffee she didn't taste, a simple question followed. Her, like a shadow, asking what if safety was the reason her heart felt so tired, and at the library, as sunlight filtered through tall windows and the smell of old paper filled the air. Emma moved through her tasks smoothly, returning books, arranging shelves, nodding at coworkers, doing everything right. Yet, feeling nothing new, until she found a folded flyer hidden inside a returned novel. Its edges worn, its message simple: community writing workshop. Try something new. And she stood still, holding it, feeling something stir. Because writing was once the place where she told the truth, where she felt alive before life. Taught her to be cautious, and she told herself it was meaningless. It's just paper, just words, but her fingers tightened around it as if it mattered. And all day the phrase echoed in her mind while she helped visitors and answered questions and smiled when expected. And by evening, when she returned home and the rain grew heavier, Emma stood alone in her kitchen holding the flyer again. Her reflection faint in the dark window, and she imagined walking into a room of strangers. Imagined speaking, imagined failing, imagined being seen, and fear rose quickly, reminding her of loss, reminding her of the quiet ache that followed hope, and she almost tore the paper in half, but something stronger pushed back. A soft but stubborn voice telling her that staying the same was also a choice, and maybe the loneliest one. And as thunder rolled far away, Emma sat at her small table, heart beating faster than it had all day, and typed her name into the online form, hesitating before clicking submit, knowing this small act could lead nowhere, or somewhere painful, or somewhere beautiful. And when she finally pressed the button, the screen confirmed her spot, and nothing around her changed. The room stayed quiet. The rain kept falling, but inside, something shifted, a small spark of courage lighting the dark, and Emma leaned back in her chair, unsure of what she had just begun. Only knowing that for the first time in a long while, her life felt like it was moving again. Emma arrived at the community hall early on Thursday evening. Her steps quick but unsure, her notebook pressed against her chest as if it could protect her from the unknown. And the room smelled faintly of coffee and old wood, with folding chairs arranged in a loose circle that made her feel exposed the moment she entered. And she almost turned back, telling herself this was a mistake. But then she noticed a man, sitting near the window, calm and focused, his posture relaxed, his attention on the room rather than himself. And something about his quiet presence slowed her breathing, and as people began to arrive, voices filled the space with nervous laughter and polite greetings. And the instructor welcomed everyone, encouraging honesty and courage. Words that made Emma's heart race, and when introductions began, Emma spoke softly, sharing only her name, while the man by the window introduced himself as Daniel Harper. Recently moved from Vancouver, Canada, his voice steady and warm. And when the writing exercise began, Emma's pen hesitated before moving. But soon words flowed faster than she expected. Simple lines about longing, silence, and the fear of standing still, and when it came time to read aloud, her hands shook as she stood. Her voice uneven but clear, and when she finished, the quiet that followed felt endless, until Daniel spoke gently. saying her writing felt honest, that it noticed small details people often miss. And his words landed deep, not loud praise, but true understanding. And something inside her opened. And over the following weeks, the workshop became the place Emma looked forward to most. Not because it was easy, but because it felt real. And after each session, she and Daniel found themselves walking out together, talking about books, life changes, and moments that reshaped them. And Daniel shared how he left a long career he no longer believed in, how a past relationship taught him what honesty costs, and he spoke without regret, just clarity, which made Emma trust him, and she found herself laughing more freely, listening closely, feeling seen without being pushed. And yet, with each passing Thursday, the closeness stirred fear alongside warmth, because Emma recognized the familiar pull of connection. And memory warned her how much it could hurt. And one evening, as they stood in the parking lot under soft streetlights, Daniel paused and asked if she would like to get coffee sometime, his tone open without demand. And Emma felt her heart leap, then tighten, torn between desire and self-protection. And she answered with a careful maybe, smiling, but already retreating inside. And on the drive home, the world looked different, brighter, and more dangerous at once. And Emma realized that trying something new was no longer just about writing. It was about facing the part of herself that still wanted closeness. And as she lay awake that night, Daniel's words replayed in her mind. And she wondered whether courage meant stepping forward or knowing when to stop. Unaware that this quiet choice, this space between yes and no, was already shaping the path ahead. Emma said yes to coffee on a cold Saturday morning, meeting Daniel at a small cafe near the river where steam rose from cups and soft music filled the air. And at first the conversation stayed light, about favorite authors, travel dreams, and the strange comfort of starting over, but slowly it deepened into stories about loss, fear, and the choices that follow heartbreak. And Emma found herself speaking more openly than she planned, surprised by how safe it felt, because Daniel did not rush her words or try to fix her thoughts. He simply listened, and that made her want to keep talking. And over the next week's coffee became walks. Walks became long talks by the water, and silence between them felt natural rather than heavy. And Emma noticed herself smiling without effort, sleeping better, writing again, yet with every good moment came a sharp reminder of the past, the memory of loving once and losing quietly, and the fear that letting someone close meant losing control. And one evening, during a calm walk as city lights reflected on the river, Daniel reached for her hand, but paused, giving her space. And that gentle hesitation overwhelmed her more than pressure ever could, because it forced her to feel instead of hide. And suddenly, Emma pulled back, her chest tight, her thoughts racing. And she told him she was not ready, that she had learned how to live alone and did not know how to open that door again. And Daniel's expression softened with understanding, but also sadness. And he told her he respected her honesty, that fear should not be ignored, but also should not rule a life. And then they parted without anger, without promises, just distance, and days turned into weeks where Emma returned to her routines. The library felt quieter. Her notebook stayed closed. And the comfort she once depended on now felt hollow, because trying something new had shown her what was missing. And she realized that avoiding pain also meant avoiding growth. And one night, as rain tapped against her window again, Emma reread the first piece she had written in the workshop, recognizing herself clearly in those lines. A woman standing at the edge, afraid to step forward. And for the first time, she understood that the risk she feared was also the chance she needed. And with a steady breath, she picked up her phone. Her hands calm this time, knowing that courage did not mean certainty. It meant choosing to move. Despite doubt, and as she typed Daniel's name, Emma felt something shift inside. Not hope alone, but strength. And she pressed send, ready to face whatever came next. They met again on a clear afternoon when the air felt lighter and the sky stretched wide above the city. And Emma arrived first, standing near a quiet park bench, her heart steady but alert. Knowing this moment mattered, and when Daniel appeared, his familiar calm eased her nerves, and she spoke honestly without long explanations, telling him she was still afraid but tired of letting fear decide her life. And Daniel listened the way he always did, with patience and respect, and he told her he was not asking for certainty or promises, only presence and truth, and they agreed to move slowly, choosing honesty over pressure, and from that day forward, their connection grew in a new way, built on trust rather than urgency, and Emma returned to writing with purpose, her words clearer, stronger, reflecting the woman she was becoming, and Daniel encouraged her quietly, celebrating her progress without taking credit, and as seasons changed, they shared simple moments. Early morning walks, thoughtful conversations, and comfortable silence. And Emma noticed how love did not erase her past but made space around it, allowing her to breathe. And months later, she stood in a small local venue, reading her work aloud to an audience, her voice confident, her story alive, and Daniel sat in the front row, listening with pride, not as someone who saved her, but as someone who witnessed her growth. And as Emma finished reading and the room filled with applause, she realized the biggest change was not romance, but courage. Because trying something new had taught her that life moves forward when you do. And as she stepped off the stage and met Daniel's eyes, Emma knew her life was no longer paused. It was fully her own, shaped by choice, honesty, and the quiet bravery to begin again.